All right, good evening. So today for our lesson, we are going to go over the chapter that we've been reading in class today, or over the past few weeks. Okay, so let's go over what we learned yesterday. Yesterday we learned about 5 different harmful substances. Can you tell me what those 5 harmful substances are?
We talked about like alcohol, prescription drugs, tobacco, street drugs, and like addictions like medication, your stabilizers, or like heroin and enhancers and stuff like that.
Perfect. Good job. Awesome. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go over some of those effects that these kind of drugs have on your body later on. They aren't necessarily right then and there. Some of them are. Some of them right after you consume them, and others are further on down the road. Okay? So why do you think it's important for us to learn the effects that these types of substances have on your body?
It's important to understand them, to understand the harm that it can do to you and to others, and that may be fatal or non-fatal, but either way, the effects that they have on you.
Right. Yep. Just perfect. So, like, being educated about those effects and the substances have on your bodies, and what hopefully will help you understand how the risk that you could be taking if you do decide to participate in consuming these types of substances. Okay? All right, so one of the ways to remember different types of terms is to go over in class is by memorizing the definitions. Okay? So the strategy that we're going to use today is we're going to build a vocabulary flip chart. All right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to hand you a blank piece of paper, and we are going to go ahead and fold it. Okay, here. You're going to take the right side and fold it to your left side 3/4 of the way. Okay.
Okay.
So it looks like the flip chart. Okay. And what we're going to do is on this portion that you don't have the flip, you're going to write the term, each of the terms, and then on this side, we're going to go ahead and write the definition. So you can see the term, try to remember what the definition is, and see if you got it right. So that's going to be more of a study tool, but we're going to go ahead and work on that today as a class. So I'll go ahead and hand you this.
How far apart should the terms be from each other?
That's going to be up to you. I will do one at a time. There's going to be 5 different terms. And if you want to, you can add your examples that we'll talk about or any other notes that you decide that you want in that.
Okay.
That's purely for you to go over. Okay. So essentially, like, here's an example. I have each of the terms that we're going to go over on this side.
Okay.
And then here is the definition of the first term at the top, right next to that term.
Oh, okay.
Do you have any questions?
Nope, I think I understand.
All right. All right, so the first term that we're going to go over today is alcoholism. All right, so go ahead and write alcoholism down on the exposed side of the paper.
Okay.
Okay, now we're going to go right on the flip part. So open up your little flip chart. Awesome. And we're going to go ahead and write down the definition of alcoholism. So the alcoholism is the addiction to alcohol where the individual continuously consumes alcohol and becomes dependent on it. Okay, so a non-example would be if you're if an individual is going out for a couple of drinks at dinner, or if you're camping and you have a drink around the fire. Okay, that would be a non-example. So that's not an example of an alcoholic or alcoholism. But an example of alcoholism is someone who starts their day off with having an alcoholic drink in order to function throughout the day. Does that make sense?
So having a drink every night for dinner would be considered being an alcoholic, whereas someone who has a drink every once in a while would not be.
Not quite. So if it's continuously and they're drinking all throughout the day and they have to have a drink to be able to function, that is considered alcoholism.
Okay.
So it's not like if you have a drink every night then that's okay, but if you have to have that drink to be able to function and be able to do the things you're supposed to throughout the day, that is alcoholism. Okay? All right, so we're going to go through here, so we're going to run out of time today, but our next one is medication abuse. Okay. This is when an individual takes prescription or over-the-counter medication when they are not supposed to in order to get a high. Okay. So a non-example of this would be taking a pain medication that your doctor prescribes you after getting your wisdom teeth taken out. Okay. But an example of this would be continuing to take those prescription medications and pain relievers after you have healed from your surgery. Okay? Alright, so the next one that we're going to go over is a laryngectomy. Okay? This is a surgery to separate your airway from your mouth and your nose and esophagus, as well as the removal of your larynx. Okay? And so it creates an open hole in your neck. This is mainly one of the things that is caused by smoking, and you get throat cancer. Okay, so an example of this would be, do you know how they have all those commercials of the people with the little hole in their neck, and they have a really hard time talking? That is an example of that. Okay. So the next thing that we have is a depressant. Okay, so some drugs like marijuana is a depressant, and this is a drug that slows down the function of the brain. Okay, some other well-known depressants are Xanax or alcohol. Alcohol is also a depressant. It helps calm and slows everything down. So that can be extremely dangerous if it's a continuous use. Okay. A stimulant is our last vocabulary word. So a stimulus is the exact opposite of a depressant. So what would you think that the exact opposite of a depressant is?
Something that, like eating candy. When you give a kid a lot of candy and they get super high and like sugared up and stuff. Kind of like that. It's like an adult candy. It gives you
like that. So you're comparing
energized.
Exactly, just about. Yep. So stimulus affect the brain in a complete opposite way, like we had said, and increase alertness and energy to those who consume it. So a couple different examples of this drug would be meth, otherwise known as crank, speed, garbage, and cotton candy is a very strong one. So of course, kind of going along with your sugar high for kids, they're relating that to meth in that way, as well as cocaine is another big one. Okay, so now that we have all of our terms, it's extremely important to understand the consequences that abusing these types of drugs and substances have on people and their lives. Okay, so today we learned a small portion about the effects of substance abuse. Do you have any questions or anything?
No, I think I understand.
Okay, tomorrow we'll be going over different resources available in our community to help those that are seeking for help for substance abuse. Okay, so for independent work today, your independent work is to read the next chapter, which will kind of give us into our discussion for tomorrow, and to create another vocabulary flip chart just like this for that chapter.
Okay.
Okay?